A very good morning, students. Welcome to Retail Marketing Unit 3. So, in Unit 3, these are the topics we have: emergence of organized retailing, traditional retailing, organized retailing in India, retailing in rural India, retailing environment in India, similarly FDI in retailing, and role of information technology in retailing and emerging trends in retailing. So these are some very interesting topics, real-time topics, and which have got a lot of relevance to the existing retail scenario, not just in our country, but also around the world. Okay, so let us start off with the first topic, traditional or unorganized retailing. Now, what do we mean by traditional unorganized retailing? So when we look at the retail sector in India, when we look at the retail industry in India, now India, in India for a very long time, retail has been seen as an occupation. Retail has been seen as an job or seen as an basically as an occupation. In India, when we go back to centuries, now the society has been divided on the basis of on the lines of caste. And every caste has got its own profession. Every caste has its own occupation. Right now, and I mean prior to independence also. Now, much after independence, almost like 1950s, 1960s and all, right? We cannot, I mean, people cannot switch from one occupation to the other occupation. When they belong to that particular caste, they'll have to be in only that particular occupation, that particular profession. Now they cannot move from other to other professions. Say for example, if there is a Brahmin, he has to only teach. Now he cannot do business, or he cannot go fight a war. He can't be a soldier. Now, this sort of inhibitions existed in India for a very long time. Now, when we look at that movie called Swades in 2004, which was made by, which was made by a star director Ashutosh Gawarika and Shah Rukh Khan in the lead role. Now, we happen to see in the particular society in the western, in the northern part of India, people still living in this particular medieval age, where a person, because I mean, if he's a weaver, he has to remain as a weaver. Now that particular weaver, since now because of the coming of the companies and because of coming of the automation, now slowly he starts losing the charm of his profession. So when he's unable to feed his particular children or feed his family, he switches his profession to agriculture. The moment he switches his profession to agriculture, the remaining landlords in the village and the remaining people, they say that this particular profession does not belong to you, or this particular profession is not yours, and they stop supporting him. And since he cannot feed his family, they force them to starve. Now look at the evil, look at the ugliness in the society. So now this retailing in India has got a very long history. All right. I mean, today people might be recognizing retailing as an industry, but prior to that, it has got a very long history, and it has got a great heritage also. Right? People have been in this in India. This profession and this occupation has been in for a very long time. And after we have gained independence, slowly organized retailing started coming, but it is not completely organized. We still we still can still call that as an unorganized only. And when foreign direct investment started coming in, we started having brands like Bata. We had the brands like Unilever, Procter and Gamble, and similarly some other brands also started coming in, but they could not make a mark, and they were very limited. That's reason even after independence, almost till we opened our economy in the year 1991. Now till 1991, now the organized retailing has not grown much. Okay, so that's like after gaining 1950, we became a republic, right? So from 1950 to 1991 is like 41 years. So in those particular 41 years, the organized retailing grew by 2 or 3%. That's it. The remaining 97% of retailing was done in traditional or unorganized retailing. Even in the urban clusters, even in the so-called metropolitan cities, like Mumbai or Delhi being a cosmopolitan, Calcutta, Chennai. Now, these particular places, the megapolis, even in this particular cities also, we had unorganized retailing ruling this particular retail sector, and organized retailing was very minimal. It was almost negligible, we can say. And that's and things started taking slowly. Things started taking a turn after 1991, and when we opened our economy, now we started moving towards organized retailing, right? And initially we had our indigenous formats. Now this particular formats were replicas of the Western formats that are already existing in other parts of the world. And by 2000 and beyond 2000, we had foreign direct investments flowing into the retail sector. Now today, unorganized retailing is moving at a very fast pace. And unorganized retailing has set its footprint, and they have set our unorganized retailing has even started capturing the people in tier 1 and tier 2 cities. So it is making a very strong inroads into the rural part of India also. So that's the backdrop of the retail industry, retail sector. So since it is existed for a very long time, we never recognized as industry. Now, retail as an industry was given an industry. I mean, people started looking at it as an industry, and big corporate houses in India started investing in the retail sector only after 1991. All right, now after before 1991, we didn't have. And most of the progress that we see that we happen to see in the retailing sector, especially in the organized retailing, it started after 2000. So in India, we basically had this particular traditional unorganized retailing. Even today, when we go to the some tribal areas, in the tribal areas where we don't have any organized retail footprints, there it is the traditional retailing or it is unorganized retailing which is existing. All right. So now let us look what is this unorganized or what is this traditional retail. Traditional retail refers to thousands of small and mostly family-owned retail businesses. They're also referred to as unorganized retail sector. Now, unorganized retailing is defined as an outlet which is run locally by the owner or the caretaker of the shop who lacks the technical and the accounting standardization. The supply chain and sourcing are usually done locally to meet the local needs. Right now, unorganized merchandising refers to the normal formats of cheap retail, the native kirana retailers, the owners manned general stores, pan or BD retailers, the convenience stores, hardware stores at the corner of one street, or small medical shops, etc. All right. Now, this particular kirana retailing has been one of the most easiest ways to generate what is called as self-employment, as it requires very limited investment in land, capital, and labor. It is generally a family-run business. There is lack of standardization, and the retailers who run this store lack education, experience, and exposure. All right. Now, traditional retailing has been in a very part. I mean, it's part and parcel. In every neighborhood, we had this kirana shop. Towards every street corners, we had this pawn shops or BD shops. All right. Now, that's the existence of this particular traditional retailing. All right. Now, though organized retailing looks at now today, people start saying this unorganized retailing people that they're not educated, they're illiterate, right? And they don't have experience or they don't have exposure. Now they start, I mean, critics starts using this particular words, but they had their own share of business. All right. Now today you come and you're pointing your fingers, but don't forget for centuries this business and these formats have existed in India. And today, having educated, we use the words like corporate, I mean, we use the words like customer relationship management, and we're talking about customer retention. Now, these particular strategies are being used for a very long time by organized retailers. All right. Now, even today, the kind of rapport an organized and unorganized retailer, the kind of rapport he maintains with his customers, you don't find that particular rapport in the organized retailing. Organized retailing, this rapport is institutionalized. Now, somebody from some thousands of kilometers sitting in a call center, he has to call you and speak to you, or it is not in human touch. They send you an email, they ask you to go through a survey. Express your opinions and so on and so forth. But here it's a human touch. As soon as you go, he greets you. He asks you, "How is your family?" He says, "Yesterday you had been. You had an occasion. What's time?" No, he tries to do. He tries to take part in their grief. He tries to take part in their sorrow. He tries to take part in the happiness and joy. Right. And now it is this human element of this human touch which is terribly missing in case of the organized sector. So all the criticism that we see regarding the traditional unorganized sector, now a part of it is like myopia. A part of it is like short look. It's not true, right? Okay, because these farmers have had they not been doing all this would not have been so successful today. When we look even in the 2021, with so-called malls and supermarkets and department stores cropping up all over the country, even today, unorganized retailing is spread through the nook and corner of the country. It accounts to almost to 87 to 90%, right? So the growth of the organized retailing, when we look, all the way from 2%, they happen to reach to 10% or 11 or 12%, not beyond that. All the way, in the last 2 decades, in 20 years, now this big corporate chains and all, now they started making inroads into the organized retailing. But there are still unorganized retailing is still existing. Say, for example, you want to buy fruits, and even today we have got separate mandis. We have got this particular metropolitan cities, or even if you take the Tier 1 and Tier 2 cities, people do not go to a Spencer to buy vegetables. People do not go to, even though there might be 2 or 3% of the population, but 90% or 90% above population, even to this day, they buy it from a vegetable market which is unorganized. They buy it from a fruit market which is unorganized. Right. So there are certain certain pockets, there are certain areas where even today this unorganized sector, in spite of the huge financial muscle, in spite of the so-called education, experience, and exposure, right, which the organized retailers possess, in spite of all these things, the unorganized retailing in certain areas is still giving them a run for their money. Right. Now, let us see how retailing is done in rural India. Right. When we look at the retailing in India, there are certain formats. Okay. Now, India is a very vast country. India is a very diverse country. All right. So we have got multiple. The beauty of India is its diversity. The beauty of India is its pluralism. Now, the world looks to India because of its pluralism. Right. Very unfortunately, there are certain people who want to make it into, who want to remove the diversity. Now, the moment you remove diversity, India is no better than in United States. India is no better than any of the other countries. So now India loses its charm in the globe. Right. Now the entire world is looking up to India. Our entire world respects in India is purely because of its diversity and pluralism. India is a land of multiple traditions, multiple cultures. It's a land of multiple religions, multiple languages. Now, this beauty of diversity, you don't find in any other part of the world. Right. So, in light of that, when we look at the retailing in rural India, there are certain standard formats which have been existing not from today or not from yesterday or not from a decade. For centuries. For almost like centuries, the standard formats have been existing. The standard formats have been in place. Now, let us look at some of the standard. Now, what do we find in retailing here? Now, most of these particular retail outlets in rural area, they focus on food grains, they focus on cereals and other stuff which is groceries, which is related to, food and which is related to home needs. Okay. Now, let's start with the first one. The first standard format that we have in retailing in the rural India is a mandi. All right. All right. Now, these are the ones who are ruling the market hierarchy in the rural areas, which owe their development partly to the government policies and agricultural marketing. Mandis are agricultural markets set up by the state governments to procure agricultural produce directly from farmers. In our state, in Andhra Pradesh, we call this particular things as Raitu Bazaar. Right? You give it a name called as Raitu Bazaar. Okay. And similarly, we have got in our state also we have got these agricultural markets for collecting food grains, for cotton, for soya, for vegetables. Right, vegetable mandis we know very commonly. Apart from that, in certain other crops like cash crops and all, we have this particular mandi. Say for example, in Guntur district, we have Michi market, we have cotton market. Even in Prakasham district also, we have Michi and cotton markets. Okay, so there are certain mandis like this. Okay, so one is this particular mandi which is run by the state government, and the next one is Haats. Unlike the regulated markets, there are also unregulated markets known as Haats, Angadi, Hatwari, Shandis, Chindis, and so on and so forth. Now, what is a Haat? A Haat is a periodic market which exists typically at a village level. A Haat can be said to be a public gathering of buyers and sellers of commodities, fruits, vegetables, household goods, clothing, accessories like bangles, etc. Now, this is the most common format and one of the oldest retail unorganized retail format that has existed for centuries. Okay, it's one of the oldest retail formats. Okay, so we have this particular Haats on a weekdays. Now some villages that gather on Thursdays, some villages that gather on Mondays, somebody gathers on Wednesday. Now some villages that gather on Sunday, like that, and they keep a specific day. On that particular day, all these particular buyers come together. I mean, all the sellers come together, and then the buyers procure the food. I mean, for 1 week, for the next week, whatever is required for their home need, for the food needs, for the groceries, they buy them and then they go. Okay, because now these particular products are directly sold by the producers. We do not have any middlemen here, this village level, right? Now the farmer directly brings his produce for sale, and then he sells and then he goes. Okay, this is what we call as Haats. Now here you can see in the pictures in this, if you look at the slide, now what is a Haat? Now these have been the heart of every village's economic, social and cultural life, as the producers as well as the farmers are very much dependent to them on for their day-to-day life. The next is the Mela, right? Now Mela happens very occasionally. So when it's in India, Mela is an religious fair, we can say. All right, in Telugu we call it as Jatara. Okay, it happens on saving. No, in India, especially I'm not particular about the northern part of India, especially in the southern part of India, in the states like Telangana, in states like Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, in this particular okay, in this particular states, now you can find them very, I mean, it is very clearly visible in case of Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, where people give a lot of preference to the village deities. Every village has got its own deity. Apart from the regular gods that we have, right? Every village has got its own deity, and on that they celebrate yearly. They celebrate for the village deities, right? So that's what we call as it is a mela, where people assemble, right? So where I mean, people from all the nearby villages in that particular mandal, whatever are the nearby villages, all these people come together, and it is held yearly once. And see, I mean, yearly once we say, but in that particular, say in that particular neighborhood, we have got around 20 or 25. Say if there are 20 or 25 villages, so we are going to have we are bound to have 25 melas in a year, right? At different times, because every village has got its own deity. Now then they are going to organize a mela. So I mean, this month, say this village is organizing, the next month some other village organizes. So it is an ongoing affair, right? Okay, and certain melas are very popular also. They're quite popular. Okay, and lot of economic activity happens during this particular Mela. Right, even in a metropolitan city, I mean, even in a big city like Vijayawada, they organize this particular Mela. Right, in say for Gunadala, we have this particular even Christianity. We see that in Christianity, not just in Hinduism. Right, in Christianity, they have Mother Mary's temple in Gunadala and Vijayawada. Yearly once they organize, they organize a sort of a Mela there. Right, and then thousands of people from the nearby districts. All right, thousands of people from far districts and near districts, they come. It's been organized. It is organized for almost 4 days. It's a weekdays affair, and lot of business happens in that particular weekdays. Right now, that entire stretch of road for 3 kilometers or 2 kilometers is closed, and we only find unorganized retailing shops being set up and business being run. Right now, people make very good fortune during this particular Mela time. No, next is the local or banyan store. Now this is a kirana shops which are very popular. Now when we move from the village level, when we come to mandal level, in each and every mandal, we find them, and then we find them in the urban areas and semi-urban areas. Very quietly popular in urban and semi-urban areas. Right, this particular kirana shops, which from where we basically buy fast-moving consumer goods as well as staples. We buy them, and groceries. Right, they're especially known for stocking daily provisions, grocery products, FMCG products. All right, for basically meeting day-to-day needs. All right, day-to-day needs and kitchen needs and home needs. So we have this particular. So what you'll have to remember. Now the unit of unorganized retailing is a hearth. This is very important, because at the grassroots level, at the minute level, at the village level, every week on one particular day, all these retailers, I mean, all these particular sellers, they come, they sell their produce, and then they go. They come again on the next week. So it's a weekly affair, and where this particular, we find a lot of buzz in the economic activity at the village level. Now, next after this particular Mela comes, I mean, after hearts comes the Melas. So these two are very, very critical at the village level. Now, when we move from the villages to small towns, right? We're not talking about cities, we're talking about towns, right? To small towns, when we move from them, then we have in this particular, at the town level, the unit of retailing is Kirana shop only, right? Now look here, this particular Kirana shop. Now this particular Kirana shops, or we also call them as local banias in North India. In South India, we call them as Kirana shop. Right now, this particular Kirana shop or a pan shop or a BD shop, these are at the unit level, which basically stock and sell FMCG products, groceries, okay, daily provisions and staples. So in order to meet day-to-day provisions, day-to-day provisions, and at the same time, right, for this particular monthly needs and all, they take care of. See, at the unit level, town level. So at the same level, in the town level also, we have the other one called as mandi. Right. Now mandis are again present at the town level. Okay. So here, in case of this particular mandi, now they are organized by the state government. State government happens to organize. It's a very recent concept, we can say. Now mandi started coming into the picture after we gained independence, and government, it's under the control of the government. Okay. So mostly in mandis, wholesale business happens rather than retailing, rather than the retail markets. Retail markets happen very rarely. Only in the fruits and vegetable markets, we find retailing, in which in Andhra Pradesh we call them as Raitu Bazaar. But otherwise, these mandis are wholesale businesses. These are wholesale businesses, and they are run by the government of India. All right. So so hearts and melas we find exclusively in villages, right? We don't find them in towns, we don't find them in the cities. Now when we come to the cities, right? These local kirana shops, we find them in the towns, we find them in the cities, and then we find mandis also in each and every town and city. We have got this particular mandis. So these are the different formats. So we have 4 formats, among which 2 formats are exclusively meant for the villages. The first one being Hath, which is organized every week, and then Mela yearly ones. And the next, when we move from village to a town and small upcoming cities and small towns, there we find kirana shops, which are the units of retailing. And above them, in the recent past, state governments started coming and they started investing. So we had this Raitu Bazaar sort of thing for in retailing. But otherwise, these mandis are basically wholesale businesses where the farmers bring their produce and they sell it to the government of state governments, and the state governments in turn, through the chance of distributions, now they are going to distribute the produce. Now let us look at the emergence of the organized retailing. How organized retailing in India came into the picture. All right. Now, as I told you, the backdrop of organized retailing is 1991 LPG policy. But on ground, we started seeing this organized retailing taking a boom only after FDI started coming in. Only after foreign direct investment started coming in, we started seeing a boom. And also, when we look at this particular organized retailing, right, initially in India, we had some groups like Raheja Group entering into organized retailing, and then we had supermarkets concept. Now cooperative societies at the cities level, now they happen to have their own supermarkets. One of the earliest models, right, way back in 1960s and 70s onwards, after a decade after independence, we started coming. Slowly this organized retailing started taking place in the cities. Tier 1 cities, tier 2 cities, or metropolitan cities, right? We started having these supermarkets, and then slowly we started having departmental stores. So after FDA was, after LPG was introduced, now we had Indian farmers like the Shoppers Stop. Oh, now that was that there. After Shoppers Stop came Spencer's, right? After Spencer's, later in 2000 and beyond, we started having Big Bazaar, and very recent format happened to be DMart. Right, but one of the earliest formats in organized retailing, when we look at one of the earliest formats, Nilgiris was one of the oldest, and we had every cooperative store, supermarkets we had. That was also very earliest, right? And one of the earliest organized Shopper Stop, it came after Shopper Stop came Spencer's. So these are some of the oldest retail formats. We're dating back for the last 30 years, 3 decades. Okay. And towards the end of the first decade in the 21st century, in the new millennium after 2000, by 2010, now we slowly started moving from, in the organized retailing itself, we slowly started moving from real-time retailing to virtual retailing. Right now, internet, we started moving from real markets to virtual markets. We started buying things on our mobile phones. We started buying things through our laptop. We started buying things through our electronic gadgets. And this format of retailing is called as e-commerce, electronic commerce or e-commerce. Now, e-commerce in the next decade, 2010 and beyond, it has grown by leaps and bounds. All right. So today, today e-commerce has spread into the deepest pockets of India, even to the village levels. So at least small towns, mandals, in all the small towns and mandals today, we have this particular e-commerce taking place. Right. So it is one of the fastest growing market and still has got a lot of potential. It still has got a lot of potential to give. Okay, so that's with regarding to the emergence. So we started with the Indian formats initially in the first decade, in the from 1991 to 2000. Now after 2000, now we started having foreign direct investments and new formats started coming up, and then we also slowly started moving to the tier 1 and tier 2 cities. And then towards the end of the 2010,
We started having e-commerce boom, emergence of e-commerce. And in the last 10 years, e-commerce has been a click and reaching to mandal and small towns level. So even today, e-commerce has got very deep pockets into the rural parts of the country. Okay. Now, in light of that, let us see some of the changes that are rapidly taking place and the reasons for this particular changes. One of the major reason for the boom of this particular organized retailing is the spatial convenience. Now, for a very long time, we had gender inequality in India. Only the male was allowed to work and the female was never allowed to work. A mother has been confined to kitchen for a very, very long time, right? And especially in the rural areas, women were never educated. Girl child was never educated, and female infanticide, killing a girl child at it. The moment you come to know that you're going to have a girl, you either get the mother aborted, and if the mother is not in a position to take up the abortion, now as the girl child is being born, she is either dumped in a trash bin or she is smothered to death. Right. I mean, a lot of violence has been perpetrated, untold violence. I mean, it's really very heartbreaking to look at that particular violence that has been perpetrated, against, especially against the girl child in the very remote and rural parts of India. Right. And the significant in the at this particular in the metropolitan cities and in other places, females were not educated. Now the ratio was always less. Okay, where you had very, very few girls in schools and colleges. In higher educations, at the post-graduation level, you hardly find any girls being educated. So it has been a very patriarchal society. Our society has been a very strong patriarchal society. Now, slowly, the walls around this patriarchal society, they started crumbling because of certain social reformers. A social reformer like Phule, social reformer like Raja Ram Mohan Rai, Dayanand Saraswati, right? In Andhra Pradesh, we have Tanguturi Prakasham, Gurram Joshua. So there are certain people who have fought against the superstitions, against the darkness in the society, trying to educate everyone. Right. So slowly gender equality started coming up. Now, today we have in certain sectors, we can proudly say in India, we have got more women than men. And even in education institutions also. You take science courses, especially biological courses. At the post-graduation level, you hardly find any males in the class. Now the ratio has been very different. So for every, for every 10 girl students, you don't even find one boy student in courses like MSc Biotechnology or BSc Biotechnology, BSc Biochemistry, biological sciences courses, hardly any presence of men. Right. And even in certain dental courses also. You look at this particular dental colleges, very few males you will find. More number of females in this particular dental colleges at the post-graduation level as well as at the graduation. So much has changed. Now that women started coming out, now that women started taking some of the prominent roles in all the spheres of public life, it can be politics or it can be business, it can be jobs, it can be any other thing. So, I mean, sports and all. So they started making the footprint, right? And since we started slowly moving towards this particular gender equality, that has contributed to the retailing. So what has happened is, we started having an explosion in the income. So previously, since only father was earning, that income is equal to expenditure plus saving. Now today, since mother is also earning, we started having disposable income where you have discretionary powers. So you can use that money however you want. So people are using that money on consumption, right? So consumption started taking a flight and materialism started creeping in. Right now, the quest for convenience here, we see fanatic growth of convenience store fueled by the entry of petroleum marketers. Right. Similarly, exploding popularity of online shopping operators, diversification of vending machines. Okay, and the increased power of retailers is also one of the reason. At one time, Colgate dominated retailers. Now retailers tend to dominate them. right? Okay, the retailer power has more increased because why retailer power has increased. We started moving to consumer markets. We were seller driven markets. As long as we were seller driven markets, retailer has no power, right? Only seller has power. Now today we are into consumer markets. Now since we are into consumer markets, now the power shifted from this particular manufacturer to the retailer. Okay, so that's the shift that we find here. Now similarly, we have a lot of diversity in retail formats, right? We have traditional retailing, we have organized retailing, we have e-commerce taking place, and then there are certain franchises where we see a lot of foreign direct investments like McDonald's, Drunken Monkey, and so on. So similarly, we have warehouse clubs. Okay, in say Metro is a warehouse club, and like this. Similarly, mail order and catalog. So we happen to see a lot of diversity taking place here. So in the next class, when we meet, we shall start off with organized detailing, advantages and disadvantages, what is the future, and so on. So, okay. So thank you one and all for your patient hearing. Now, it's been a very interesting class. I hope you too enjoyed being a part of this particular class. Thank you.